Hello again, everyone. And today we have Dr. Laurell here. Still, we're working with a women's group in navigating midlife metabolism. And Dr. Laurell, what's so interesting, we spoke about last time, we had two people actually write in about weight gain and how to deal with their cortisol levels. But you had brought up, thyroid comes up. Thyroid is a really big issue. I believe you said 1 in 3 women that you see have a problem with their thyroid. Would you like to talk to us about that? And we'll see where we're going to go with that and in which direction we'll go with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, literally, I see mostly female patients, and 1 out of 3 of them has a thyroid issue. And yeah, it's like an epidemic. This is such an important issue that we need to be looking at closer. And I think it's partially because this is just a vulnerable system. Our thyroids are easily impacted. So it's something that all of us it needs to be on all of our radar.
Do you think it has to do with, is it, when we speak about this, I have my own opinions of it, but I'm not an expert in thyroid health and hormone health. But is the declining estrogen level, would you say it comes forward then because of declining estrogen, or it just so happens that we've lived a stressful life with foods that actually cause autoimmune issues because of our response to them? Is there one way that we could say causes it, or are there many causes?
Well, there are many causes, but you've hit on a couple of the key ones. We do know that the majority of thyroid issues are autoimmune, and autoimmune conditions are unfortunately likely to uh, uh, come up or at least be revealed during our menopausal transition, partially because of the hormone changes. Hormones can have an impact on autoimmune conditions. But yes, you're absolutely right. The foods that we're eating that can be problems for particular individuals, and then the toxic load in our lifestyles is just another general impact, even when we're talking about cases that aren't autoimmune.
Well, here's what I'm getting at when I speak about that also is is it really the declining estrogen, or is it a whole system that's in transition? And because we're not, I don't want to use the word healthy, but we're not balanced due to the toxins in the environment, our lifestyle. I know that I've told just people when I actually on meditation retreats, when I was doing the working with healthcare providers, a lot of nurses, social workers, dietitians, coaches, etc., they'd always want to know about diet. And the first thing in thyroid, and again, not being an expert on that, the first thing I always thought about, because I learned in my chemistry days, and I know you have a background in chemistry, was get the fluoride out of your diet, from the
Yes,
toothpaste to the water.
yes.
This halogen
Mhm.
competes. And that was
Yes.
one of the things that people would say to me, which I was surprised, really? And I'd say, yeah, just take that out. I don't want to say I used to be a swimmer, but I used to love swimming. And, now I live by the ocean, but it's cold, need that wetsuit. But I used to swim in pools. And even the chlorine in the water that we take showers in, and the chlorine in the public water, I have a tendency, I feel that that also can affect, it can get absorbed through the skin. Am I correct in the way I'm
Absolutely.
thinking? Or,
Yes. No, you're absolutely right. We have to worry about fluoride, chlorine, and bromine. Bromine being used for hot tubs and sometimes bromated flour, some weird processed flours. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Those all are chemically similar to iodine. And so when we get our body overloaded with those, they end up competing with the iodine in our thyroid, and our thyroid isn't getting what it needs because these other chemicals are trying to fit into those iodine receptors.
Have you ever been able in your practice to turn around, let's call it low thyroid function with using supplements and herbs and, well, lifestyle, we could say, but using certain nutrients? Have you been able to see significance?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when it comes to thyroid, there are so many different scenarios, but there are some scenarios that respond particularly well to a healthy nutrition approach, both getting those problematic things out of their diet. But another common scenario that I see people dealing with, and this is not necessarily the autoimmune scenario, but another scenario I see is where people aren't realizing that their stress levels are impacting their thyroid. If they're dealing with constant stress and their adrenals are struggling, the body kind of transfers some of the workload to the thyroid. And so you can, if you're already worn out in one area and the body's struggling, then it puts this pressure on the thyroid. I sometimes describe to my patients that the adrenals and the thyroid kind of work together as the gas pedals for our metabolism. So
Right.
we need to consider nourishing both of those at the same time in these people who are depleted from a lifetime of stress.
It's interesting you talk about the adrenals. I made a habit years ago uh, of just getting up, and I saw it from an Asian practitioner. Uh, and every morning I get up and I'll actually rub my back and I
Hmm.
massage my adrenals. I actually do it
Yes.
every single morning
Mhm.
because I know the significance of their importance in our life. But again, if if your body is not feeling well, that creates the stress. It's almost like a circular effect, you know?
Yes.
I
Yes.
know my primary care actually is I go to because I've had injuries from sports, but I learned a lot about Chinese medicine because I worked with an acupuncturist, and that's where I first learned that if your body is not feeling good, it's going to create a reaction to the way you're thinking, and then your thinking becomes stressful, which aggravates then the condition. So it's
Mhm.
working hand in hand. And I think that the thyroid is something. I remember when I was about 40 years old, I had called, I won't use the name, but I called a major health place. And the fellow that I spoke to was a physician, and he had said, doctor, I should say. And he said, well, all women in their 40s are, struggling with what they're going to do next in their career and their life, which I was. And thyroid is an issue. And I never forgot that. We have to talk about the psychological implication of that, speaking up and doing that. And that's not something that we'll really talk about here, but all of those feelings, that's what I'm trying to get at, the psychological notes, how we process things, what our perceived threats are, all affect, as I'm trying to feed off of what you said, where that stress creates the issue. And it happens that the thyroid, which is our major metabolic control organ, one of the major ones, really takes a hit, really takes a hit. And
Yes. Yes. In so many ways. Yeah, we mentioned how the hormonal changes, how our adrenal changes, diet, both toxic input in our diet, lack of nutrients in our diet, so there are so many levels that leave our thyroids vulnerable. And in a previous session, you mentioned how our soils are being depleted of minerals, and the thyroid doesn't just need iodine, it's also needing minerals like selenium and even adequate iron, so sometimes there's a deficiency picture that we have to uncover and nourish. And then those things help the whole body. That's the thing that I love about natural medicine. We make one change for the thyroid, such as boosting our selenium, but then it helps our body be balanced on multiple levels.
I remember reading a long time ago when I was at Columbia at the time, medical school, and working in nutrition. And I remember them speaking about selenium and zinc, the two minerals so depleted, and yet those it's the minerals. The minerals are what we're really lacking. And without the
Mhm.
minerals, that's why we're seeing all these disease states just pop up. I don't want to isolate it as one thing, and where does that even go? If we drill down, it goes to the soil. The pesticides,
Mhm.
there are people still spraying their lawns so their lawns will be pretty. I mean, where do they think those chemicals go? They wash away and they destroy the minerals. They destroy any biome, the biome in our gut, the biome in the
Mhm.
soil. And we're wondering why even children are having difficulty today.
Yes.
So, thyroid isn't just, we're talking about midlife here. We're talking about women and metabolism. With thyroid, I don't know how prevalent it is. You might be able to answer this, where it could be very prevalent, and it's because of our lack of nutrients.
hmm Yes, absolutely. I mean, and keep in mind with these nutrients, some of them I refer to them as Goldilocks nutrients, and that we want our levels to be just right. Like you can have too little iodine or you can have too much iodine. The same with iron. Like iron is needed by the thyroid for proper functioning, but you get overloaded with iron and that causes too much inflammation in the body. So, it I don't want people to listen to us and be like, "Oh my goodness, I need to take buckets of iodine and
Right.
tons of selenium." Our body can get overloaded on these things. So don't go overboard. We want the path of moderation, having lab work to check in on these things and make sure that we're in a balanced place.
Well said. And also, that's why I even prefer, and I do it myself, if I'm going to take supplements, take them from whole food sources so that the body can pick and choose. The body has its own intelligence, and we want to really learn to trust our bodies and trust our mind once our mind becomes trained. And that's the area that I work with. Uh, Training your mind, then you will know what you need and not need. And it becomes you're not coming to a supplement out of fear. I have to fix something rather than how will I nourish my whole being and how can I do it to support that whole homeostatic balance within the mind body complex. And it's very important, I think, to approach things in that way. It's not about selling supplements and pushing supplements, and there are some good supplements out there, but you have to really know who you're getting them from. And there are a few companies that I know I work with and I know you work with that just stellar in how they prepare, and they're ethical and they're efficacious. And so that's what we really want to do. So there is hope, though. If we do have thyroid issues, we can turn it around. That's what I wanted to really hear from you.
Yes, yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, and even autoimmune cases, I mean, it takes work, it takes time, but with so many things, it's about uncovering those underlying issues, balancing the body on these levels that we've been talking about, working on hormone balance, getting the toxic impact, minimizing the toxic impact in our lives, getting adequate nutrition, dealing with food sensitivities. When we start addressing these underlying issues, we can even help improve the autoimmune cases.
And I'll end with the way I always look at healing, and this is healing, we're talking about health and healing. It's a transitional journey, and the amount of we learn so much because, as we say, a crisis is to look at what is twice, CRISIS, to look at what is twice. And there was a woman healer who worked with me with my eyesight and dyslexia when I was, out of school. Anyway, she's the one that taught me that. So it's a transformative. We're able to this transition from health and healing, or from not feeling very well to a healthful state. And anyone who's gone through that journey has learned so much. I know that I have, and it's quite profound.
Yes, yes, very, very well put.
Okay, so let's end with that. We'll check in with more questions from our audience. If you have any questions, any concerns, please write to Susan at susantaylor.org. And I'd love to host whatever questions or concerns you have about navigating midlife metabolism. And we'll enjoy hearing from you, and we'll be back here with more information. Take care. And until next time, as I always say, remain calm, consciously aware, living in the moment.